And we're back with the Real Estate Radio Show featuring Chris Lofthus of the Chris Lofthus Group at Keller Williams Realty in Boise. The best way to check out the show is chrislofthus.com. If you miss it, I was just looking, Chris, I think we're looking at 30 weeks of this show, pretty darn close, and the success is growing and growing, so we want to thank all of the listeners and all of our guests. If any of the guests you've missed, Annette puts the show up on a podcast, chrislofthus.com. You go on the tab that says Radio Real Estate Show. It just says Radio Show. Click on that. All the programs are there. And then, Chris, something in essence you've created through this show is the secret list. Share with our listeners how you have that set up.
Yeah, we have it set up, and it's actually becoming, it's getting better and better. But basically what it is, it's pocket listings that we know about. A lot of people approach us, and they don't want to list their house due to whether it's kids, family members they don't want to know. They don't want to sign in the yard. They don't want to deal with realtors coming through their house. So it's basically a list that we compile and that we try to marry people up. So when we get people that come into town or locally that come to us and say, I really want this house in the Meridian, can't find it, we look at our secret list and we might have something that we can marry people up with.
That number is 350-6228, 350-6228. And like we said, with the secret list, if you've got little kids and you're worried about how do I keep the house clean, maybe you don't want your kids to know you're moving. Maybe you don't want the in-laws to know. Maybe you don't want your boss to know. Take advantage of that secret list. Peter Oliver is our guest of Thornton Oliver Keller. That's TOKcommercial.com. Peter, one of the things I look at as I go down Eagle Road, I keep saying, well, it looks really good. Is it too good to be true? And, as you said, the quilt is almost done on Eagle Road. Obviously, from your perspective, I hope you're going to tell me, no, it's not too good to be true. That's a harbinger of things to come. But how do you assess the commercial growth?
I'm optimistic. We're in the kind of the mid stages of what I call the shop vac time, which is we're doing cleanup, which is no different than what residential went through. So our market tipped in September of 2008, which is when Lehman went down. And unlike residential, which started in February of 2006 and then started to slowly slow down and then it really picked up momentum, commercial was literally like a switch going off. And so it got really, really tough and challenging through obviously 2009, 2010, 2011. It kind of started to stabilize in the early part of the year, and it's just slowly healing. But the good news is the vacancies are coming down. The rates have stabilized. Concessions are waning pretty quickly. So it's actually happening quicker than I thought. So I would guess we have about another 10 to 12, maybe 15 months before we'll start seeing some new construction. And again, going back to my earlier comment, what we're seeing now is predominantly owner-user driven. So you've already got somebody in place.
Right.
In a healthy market, similar to residential, you can usually expect to see some spec construction. And we're not there yet, and we won't be there for at least 12 to 18 months, as I mentioned. But we're headed in the right direction, no question. And the key is you look at who's absorbing this space, going back to our earlier discussion on jobs. It's companies now hiring, mostly small to mid-sized companies. We are seeing some of our bigger users go out and buy some facilities that have been sitting there. And we've had quite a bit of activity on the owner-user side, buying some buildings that got vacated by companies that shut down or moved. So it's all getting cleaned up, and that's what'll have to take place before we start seeing really that next level of new construction.
Yeah, and I agree. And it's kind of funny, Peter said that commercial follows the residential portion of it, and we're seeing so much new activity, which is a lot of people. I talked to I call them the naysayers, but a lot of people are watching, reading national articles, and you just cannot. You need to get the real facts of what's going on here locally, because there are still a lot of cities, a lot of places that are really distressed, whether it's commercial or residential. But you look, for example, for us, the full year last year for new construction, I'm talking about spec homes or new construction that's being built, the whole year last year in 2011, we only had 691 units and $149 million in total sales volume. Year to date, with we're only halfway through September, the end of September, we have 966 units at $232 million. That's 36% up, and we have 3 months left to go in the year. So we're seeing a big push there, which I think, like Peter said, you see a big push with new construction or with home sales and that kind of stuff, and I think it leads to more commercial activity, right?
Right, absolutely. And we went back when residential was really on its slide down, and a lot of people don't know this, but this will give you the extent of the damage that happened. So between '05 and 2010, 83% of the home builders that were in existence in 2005 got wiped out.
Right.
83%. So if you just think about that, and then you think about all the subcontractors, all the title companies, all the real estate agents, all the furniture, anything and everything having to do with residential and the impact, I mean, it's astounding.
Right.
I mean, quite frankly, I sit back and things could have been a lot worse. So how does that affect commercial? Well, you've got all these companies that set up branch operations or satellite operations here to cater to residential construction. And, it eventually got to them and they started shutting down. That creates the vacancies, et cetera.
Sure.
So now we're starting to see that turn. So we're starting to see the small groups come back in. They're going to open up a tile shop or
right.
electrical supply shop or what have you. And so that's how it's all going to tie back in. And back to the employment picture, again, I'd venture to say that probably between 1 to 2 points of our current unemployment situation is tied to construction. And so we haven't even started to scratch that yet.
Right.
Because even residentially, there's still hardly any builders, right?
Right. Yeah, and kind of what something else I wanted to touch on. I'm hearing this over and over again because I know Peter was involved with Paramount and Brighton over there, and he understands very well the residential portion of it. And we are seeing a lot of new builders, new builders, names we haven't even heard, coming in here out of Scottsdale and out of California. And, you look at it, and now I'm starting to hear, okay, we're starting to see some momentum. You look at the numbers I just talked about. We really starting to see that ball rolling. And now I'm hearing from builders, and they're saying, hey, the supply shops are starting to ding us. The guys want more money, because everyone's so busy now. And you talk about drywallers to guys that are framing, and you start talking about lot sales like you and I discussed, Dave, about in Paramount. And you say, okay, what's going to happen with lot sales? So now these builders are finally getting some momentum and starting to make some money and getting back on their feet. And here go the prices, and that price is really tough to pass on to the consumer.
It is, but that's the normal course of business in a free market system, and so it's all part of it. And people have to sharpen their saw all the time and be competitive, and that's what happens. And you got guys that will start new companies, and that's all going to aid in the job picture.
Sure.
So that's what's coming.
Peter, I want to go back a little with TOK. So I have a business on Orchard Avenue. And I've decided it's time for me to take advantage of Eagle or 10 Mile. Why should one of our listeners today reach out to you? They're looking for commercial property. They have a lot of choices out there. Why TOK?
Well, I'm obviously biased. I think we provide the highest level of service, and I do truly believe we know the market better than anybody. If you're a tenant in a building, there's still opportunities for you to upgrade the quality of your space, for good, competitive rates. That is waning, as I mentioned earlier. So that's what a lot of people say. If you're in a B space, you've always wanted to be in an A space. Your business, you've survived. Your business is nice and stable. There's good opportunities to do that, but it's shrinking pretty quickly at this point. The other side of it is if you're somebody that's leased for a long time and you've always wanted to buy, the financing opportunities right now, in particular through the SBA, are incredible. I mean, you can get commercial financing now for sub 5%, which is unheard of.
Yeah.
Free.
It's a really good opportunity, and that again, all of that is what's helping us clean up the market. So the companies that came out of this healthy are taking advantage, or they're just seizing the opportunity to go out and buy a building that they've always wanted because the prices have come down and the financing opportunities they're unmatchable. So that's a lot of what we're seeing now, and that's what I'd say. So what we bring to the table is really, as in any real estate professional, is time and knowledge.
Right.
And our guys are committed, and gals, and I think we do the best job.
Yeah, kudos to Pete. I've been here 5 years, going on my 6th year, and like I said, I've been blessed enough to have grown a really nice business, and I've met a lot of really great people, and I know a lot of people that know Peter, and I've heard nothing but fantastic things about him. I know him personally, and he's right. We talk about my company and what we try to do, and we try to hire talent. I know Pete has the same motto. It's like, you know what, it's about our customer. You know, we're going to try to put the best people in place to help the customer, and I think that's their ultimate goal.
Yeah. Well, Peter, what is the best way if somebody's listening today? We know we have a lot of listeners not only on Saturday, but when they listen to the podcast, they go, now's the time. I'm going to talk to the expert. How do they reach out to you?
Well, best is my direct line at the office, 947-0816. It rings right to my desk. Have no problem calling there. Email peter@tokcommercial.com. Those are probably the two best venues, and I'm available 7/24 unless I'm doing something with my family. So.
Awesome. And of course, you can look at tokcommercial.com. If you miss those numbers, it's 947-0816. 947-0816. We'll take a time out. When we come back, more on the Real Estate Radio Show featuring Chris Lofthus of the Chris Lofthus Group at Keller Williams Realty, Boise.